broadcasts here down in New Zealand. Stumps on day 2 of the Test match in Hamilton, and there's been a fair degree of cyber inquiries as to what's happened. Where have we gone? Anyway, we're back now. A bit of a crisis. We weren't able to score 3 tickets for the game, so it's just all been a bit of a disaster, really, on that front. Obviously, the company executives weren't up to the task. But I believe Mr. Littlejohn got into the ground today, one way or another. And as we sit here now, New Zealand 347, England 143, New Zealand 136 for 3, which gives New Zealand a lead of 340 runs after day 2. It's obviously been a series of having a huge lead at stumps on day 2, which is quite bizarre. And I'm sure, Mr. Littlejohn, you've been buoyed by New Zealand's improved performance there. So what are your thoughts at stumps on day 2?
Yeah, well, it was crushingly disappointing to finally make it to the Basin, the home of cricket in New Zealand last weekend, and sit through 2 days of, very mediocre play, to say the least, by New Zealand. The weather was fine, the venue was amazing, the crowd was up for it, and it was just an absolute fizzer. Day 1 I didn't get to here in Hamilton, obviously very finely poised, but day 2 was all New Zealand. Right from the outset, actually, I thought Santner and O'Rourke had exactly the right tactics this morning, and while they didn't score very quickly, they kept England out in the field for at least an hour in very hot conditions, I might add. One of the hottest days, or certainly the hottest day of the summer so far. It was very warm, and just kept the English bowlers out there, got some time in the legs, and I thought that was just a good way to start the day. And then inexplicably, really, the New Zealand boys have been bowling quite well. Apart from Tim, it's his last hurrah. It produced sort of, unfortunately, yet another reasonably toothless display. All the other lads, Matt Henry continued on his very good form. A lot of calls around the ground for O'Rourke to be opening the bowling. He steamed in and was, in the mid 140 kilometres, very hostile, very quick. And he forced a lot of the English lads into error. Will O'Rourke, I thought he was outstanding. And then, as we've pointed out on this podcast before, Mr. Boyle, the claw, Mitchell Santner came in and, where has the New Zealand spinners been? Successful in India, came in 3 for 7 and mopped up the remainder of the tail. And Will Young, again, another man that this podcast has been calling for to be in the side, 40-odd first innings, 60-odd today. 2 very good opening partnerships when, both sides have been sadly lacking in the opening partnership division. He played very, very well. So, I think this panel can take a lot of credit for pushing Conway, pushing Santner, and trying to point out that Tim, unfortunately, is just a shadow of his former great self. He used to be a great player, but those days are gone. But big lead at the end of day 2, completely contrasting the even bigger lead that England had down at the Basin after day 2, Mr. Boyle.
Yes, I think the New Zealand selection panel maybe need to have a bit of a rethink in many ways. I mean, for
They could do well to tune into this podcast, I would have thought,
For New Zealand players to go to India and have the sort of series that Young and Santner had there is pretty rare. there's many New Zealand cricketers gone to India and done nothing. And I mean, when Santner bats well, he is the ultimate guy who looks $1 million. With a bat in his hand, he just hits such beautiful shots, and I would be. It would be quite a dangerous exercise to stand down the fairway on the first tee, and Mitchell's on the tee with his driver, and you're charged with trying to catch the golf ball. I don't think that would be.
Well, these lads, sorry to butt in there, but these lads are very renowned for playing golf, and Mitchell was actually on a +2. He plays at my golf course. So he is some golfer, you can tell by the way he swings a cricket bat. He's a very clean hitter.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that 60 hit to go to 50 off pots. The last ball, on the first day, it was just a beautiful shot, really. So I think there's obviously got to be a bit of a review from the New Zealand selectors' point of view, as regularly called for here, as you point out, Mr. Littlejohn. But I must take a bit of umbrage with the, there's a perception New Zealand are a bit conservative. Obviously, you're up against McCullum and Stokes, who'd probably fire a catapult at an army tank if it was coming towards them, thinking they'd win. But I mean, you're 320 runs ahead. There's 20 minutes to go, and you send in a night watchman. I mean, bizarre. Maybe it was on the basis the lad had batted already that day and was in good touch.
Well, perhaps.
Very
Perhaps it was more inspired than we think. But I personally, I think that one is just a symptom of a lad batting at 4 who's very new in his test career, who hasn't got any runs in this series and just waved the white flag and didn't really want to be anywhere near the batting crease with 15 or 20 minutes to go, and just insisted on a night watchman. I note that when O'Rourke got out, Ravindra waited until O'Rourke actually crossed the white line before he stepped out onto the playing surface. So clearly he's down on confidence. He badly needs runs, and he just didn't want to be there with, in the fading light, with nothing to achieve apart from getting out. So that just tells you a little bit about his mental space. And he actually promptly played the hook shot to the very first ball he faced, and I'm sure the English have taken note. I was side on to those last few balls, and the English had a square leg, a deep square leg, a mid-wicket, a deep mid-wicket, a deep backward square, and a deep fine leg. They had 6 guys on the hook. So I'm sure they think that's the story and the way to get Ravindra out tomorrow. We shall see.
Yeah, well, there was a very interesting. You maybe didn't pick it up at the ground, but the stump mics and cameras picked it up. Stokes actually had a pop at Ravindra after his pull on the first ball, and as pops go out in the middle, it was pretty good. He said it's a bit rough on the night watchman coming out and playing a shot like that first ball, which I think was probably about that. But surely, Mr. Littlejohn, without a doubt, it was an opportunity for the reappearance of the Night Hawk with 20 minutes to go. And clearly, our Night Hawk would have been our man Tim, 2 sixes to get to 100 sixes. And Stokes would have risen to the challenge for sure, which would have just sent the beetroot burnt crowd home in ecstasy had Tim got his 100 sixes. He might have got out first ball, but I don't understand that.
Right. Look, I'm being an old batter who has pleaded for the security blanket of a night watchman on several occasions in the past. If I was comparing Tim Southey and Will O'Rourke and looking at how long each of them had batted, I would not be interested in strike rates at any stage. I would be looking for the bloke who's got the best defence the straightest bat and has got the ability to leave the ball, and that's certainly not, Mr. Timms out there, unfortunately. So I'd have to beg to differ. I totally understand why they did send out. What's going on there, Mr. Boyle?
Oh, it's just the whole media circus, really. Lots of texts and phone calls.
Right.
I just it's hard, being a
media celebrity like yourself.
Yeah, at the forefront of technology and all that. I mean, it's just
I can see right there that there's just some cutting edge stuff down there.
Yeah, it's buzzing. So going back to the subplot, you're clearly not a fan of the Nighthawk, then, Mr. Littlejohn.
No. If he was going in as my night watchman, I would be on the edge of my seat. I would not have any faith whatsoever, I'm afraid. Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we probably, due to further technological difficulties, we possibly ought to wind up there, and we will aim to pick up things in due course. Maybe it's tomorrow or the day after.
It is forecast for rain tomorrow, so the day could be interrupted, but what are we? Tuesday, Wednesday are fine and hot again. So I think we will get a result. It may not be tomorrow, though. And I would still not discount England here. The New Zealand middle order has proved to be wafer thin, has not scored a run in the entire series, bar one innings from Blundell. So they could easily get rolled for another 100, which would mean, England would need maybe 440, 450, and Harry Brook is not going to get another first baller. So I think there's still some cricket to be played in this match.
Yeah, no, I think it could well be, but the highest fourth innings chase to win at Seddon Park is 289.
Right. Very true. And the highest fourth innings chase ever, I think, is 418 or thereabouts. We looked it up, didn't we, in the basin?
Yeah.
So unlikely, but England have got the lineup to do it. And it is a very flat wicket, really. It's not doing a lot.
Yeah. No, they do have the lineup to do it. Yeah. Okay,
very good. Okay.
Go well, and we'll see you in due course.
See you later. Right, that's us.